2006.
Say it again. Say
Good morning. It's April 23rd, 2006. Sunday in Dallas, Texas.
Let's talk about your mom. Do you know where her family came from?
My mother's family came from Alabama. Their name was Morgan, and they migrated to Texas sometime after the Civil War. And my mother was born on January the 11th, 1891, near Sulphur Springs.
What were the names of her parents?
Her parents were W.P. Morgan and Lucy Jane Morgan.
Nay Hicks, right? Lucy Jane Hicks.
Yeah. Lucy Jane's maiden name was Hicks. Lucy Jane Hicks. Don't know anything about her.
What did WP stand for?
William P. Bill. And they had 11 kids, I think.
I thought it was 13. No,
I
11.
don't know.
Where did they live?
They lived in that same house there on the creek, which is now in the lignite mine.
Down in Crush, or?
Yeah. Crush.
And what were their occupations?
Farmers.
And what memories do you have of your maternal grandparents?
They died in the 1920s, and I only remember seeing them once or twice. They had left the house on the creek and moved in with into a house near their oldest son at Crush, and so that's the last time I saw them.
And so your mother, was she the youngest of the 11?
My mother was next to the youngest. She had the youngest girl was named Ludi, and my mother's name was Leila Eleanor. And as I said, she was born on January the 11th, 1991.
1891.
1891. And she passed in
69.
June the 6th, 1969.
Where did your father's family come from?
My father's family came from Abbeville District, South Carolina, and I don't know much about them except my father's father, or my grandfather, was in the Civil War, and they settled at south of Sulphur Springs in a community named Shook's Chapel, where my father was born on September 23rd, 1887.
And his full
And he
name?
passed on May the 3rd, 1965. So,
His full name was?
Joseph Dial Madison. That's my dad's name, and I don't know what his dad's name was. I don't think. I can't think of it.
Are they both buried at Forest Academy?
No, they're buried at Shook's Chapel.
Shook's Chapel, okay.
Yeah, his dad was named Benjamin Lattimore.
Benjamin Lattimore Madison.
Right, yeah. So
what was his mother's?
Manfredonia. Napier was her maiden name.
How did
So
she?
Manfredonia, M-A-N
F-R-E.
F-R-E-Y, I guess. Donia, D-O-N-I-A. And she's and Benjamin Lattimore are both buried in the cemetery at Shook's Chapel.
How did you know they came from the Ebbsville district?
Abbeville District.
Abbeville district.
My dad said that that's where they came from.
Do you know where that is? In
South Carolina, Abbeville District, South
But do you
Carolina.
know what part of South Carolina is it?
Well,
Charlotte.
Anderson's a county seat,
Oh,
and there are lots of Madisons in Anderson.
Do you-
About 300 families.
oh. Do you know what? Who he might have served with in the Confederate Army? I assume he was a rebel.
I believe he was in the maybe 19th Texas Cavalry, and he fought at, according to my dad, at Pea Ridge, Arkansas, the Battle of Pea Ridge.
Oh, so he didn't fight in South Carolina. He left there before
Oh
he
yeah,
joined.
he came to Texas. So
And where did what did you call them? Did you know them?
no, I never saw him.
They were dead by the time you came along?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah. I only saw my maternal grandparents, and so I never even saw any pictures of. They don't have any pictures of my paternal grandparents.
do you know where they lived?
Well, when my dad was born in Chicks Chapel, so at that time we were in Chicks Chapel.
What was their?
Somewhere.
And they were farmers.
Yeah, as far as I know. They kind of live by their wits, I think. I'm not sure they actually had a profession. I think they just did what they had to do to stay alive.
So your mother was born. Back to your mother. Your mother was born at Crush.
Yes, at that house on the creek.
And what do you know about her childhood?
Well, she grew up in that house, and she went to school. It's very rural, and this is horse and buggy days. And she went to school at a school named called Rock Creek, which is a little north of there where they lived, and so they had to walk. And they only went to school during the wintertime when they didn't have crops or farming to do. And then when, in other words, she started school after the cotton was picked, or the harvest was in, and then she had to stop school when the spring planting began. So she got to the 4th or 5th grade, she said. And the same pretty much my dad.
So she was one of 11. How many? Can you name her brothers and sisters?
No, not all of them. Just Solon was the one she was, and Howard were the two she was closest to, I guess, and then Ludi, and then a sister named Clara. And those are the 4 that I knew the best. But there were others named Lee, and he lived at a little community called Star Ridge. And he had several kids. And there are lots of Morgans in and around Sulphur Springs.
And where was your father born and brought up?
My father was born in Shooks Chapel on September 23rd, 1887. As far as I know, he grew up there, and he, I don't know much about him, how he spent his teenage years. He was, when he married my mother, he was a bachelor living in a small house near the farm that they would end up buying and living on later. So he had a sister named Molly, and she was married to a guy named John Felton, and the two of them had already bought this farm, and they later sold it to my mother and dad in 1924. And so I knew Sister Molly fairly well, and then he had another brother named Benjamin. I knew him fairly well. And then he had a sister named Zora who lives in Texarkana, who married a guy named Alan Turner. And she had a couple of kids. One of them was named Nell. I don't know what the boy's name was. Maybe it was Alan. But they lived in Texarkana, and so they used to come visit us in summertime when I was back in the 1930s. So Zora was, I guess they were pretty close. They called each other brother and sister. And when Molly was talking to my dad, she said, called him brother, referred to him as brother, and he referred to his sister, or Sister Molly.
Because that's interesting, because your mother used to call you son.
Yeah.
And I think she called Frankie Sonny Boy. Or she called Scott Sonny Boy, your son, and then she called Frank Sonny.
Boy, I guess, whatever. Yeah, they had their names.
When did your parents first meet?
I don't know. They were, well, let's see, there was a, they got married in 1914, so I assume they met prior to that date. So, anyway, they were, they courted in a buggy, which my dad had. And my dad's house, where he batched, was about a mile from where my mother's house was. You've seen that?
Yeah,
That
picture.
that big old picture of that old house, the whole family strung out in front of it.
And I've seen the picture of the two of them in the wagon.
Yeah,
That was after they got married, I guess.
yeah, right.
When and where did they get married? You said 1914.
Some preacher married them. I think it was Eric Crush.
And their first home was on Route 2, Sulphur Springs.
Right, yeah. It was the farm that they bought from
Molly.
Dad's sister Molly and John Felton.
And so they earned a living. They did a bunch of, they grew cotton. They were dairy farmers for a while.
Well, they started out, remember this is 1924, so the world was, the economy, national economy was
Well,
booming.
but wait, they were married for 10 years before they bought that farm?
Right, yeah.
Where did they live before that?
They lived in, I guess that little old house with him. I don't know for sure. And I know when they were building that house there on the farm, they were living in a little old smokehouse little thing there on the property.
Okay.
So anyway, that, I don't know where they live. I know they never lived with her parents.
Okay. And so they made a living by farming.
Yes.
Well, what kind of stuff did they grow?
Well, originally, they started out with cotton and some corn, and they had a few animals, and so the corn was to feed the team. They had a team of mules, and they had that was one of the modes of transportation, was a wagon and team if you had to haul anything. And then they had a brand new Model T, 1924 Model T automobile, which they sold when the Depression came.
And then they just used a mule and they just used a team.
Well, yes, we had to go back and forth town wagon team. And then they traded, I don't know, somewhere in there they traded for a, when I started school in 1930, they had a later Model T in 1926, I think it was. It was a Model T coupe, and it had, it was enclosed.
Mm-hmm.
So I was telling you, that's how I started school. Mother took me to school in that car.
So now we're going to shift gears. And so where did you meet Myra?
Oh, I've known Myra ever since, or that Myra Manor McLary, ever since she was little. And her brother Gibson and I are very close to the same age, being 3 days apart in age. And so he and I always knew each other through the school years. And then he had sisters, 3 sisters, and his youngest one was Myra. And so we all went through the Sulphur Springs school system at the same time. And anyway, so Myra grew up, she was born in a community called White Oak on February 24th, 1934, on the morning when it was so cold and miserable that the doctor that delivered her could not get to the farm, so her dad had to hitch up a wagon and team and go to the highway and bring the doctor to the house to deliver her. And so anyway, she grew up part of at White Oak, and then I don't know, they moved to 2 or 3 different houses in the White Oak community. And but she went to school at a one-room schoolhouse to start with.
So you're telling her story, but when did you first actually make her acquaintance as a young woman?
Oh, well, I was, let's see, I was in high school in 1939, let's see. I forgot what year she said they moved down to Crush, but anyway, I was working there on the farm when she was going to school. So she used to walk from her house up to our house to catch the bus. And so I knew her then. Then later on, when we started courting to get married, that was when, in 1952, when I got out of the service.
And she was living in Dallas?
Yes.
And her brother Gib and his wife BJ set you up on a double date?
Yes, that's right.
And what was your impression of her?
Myra? Oh, I thought she was, she was very, very nice, and I was a little bit skeptical of the relationship because she was 10 years younger than I am. And I thought, well, you know, that's too great an age difference, because I thought at that time that was the difference in the ages of my parents, and then I did not realize what my parents' ages were until they died. And I suddenly realized that there was only 4 years difference in their ages. But anyway, so I was a little skeptical of getting involved with it because of the age difference, but then as we went on, we fell in love and got married.
So you met in 52 and then got married in August of?
53.
So your courtship, how long did your courtship last? About a year?
Practically from November or at least December of 52 until August 53.
Oh. And how did your parents react when you told them you were getting married?
Well, Mother acted very unfavorably, throwing a hissy fit.
What did that consist of?
Well, we walked in and announced our engagement. She says, "I don't approve," and got up and walked out of the room.
Constitutes a hissy.
Well, yeah, that's not the real hissy. The hissy came later.
Oh, after Myra left?
No, it was when she realized that we were going to get married. So when it started, well, no.
Had she been cordial to Mom up to that point?
Yeah, and the thing was, it was when the hissy fit started, there were several hissy fits. But when it started was when Ruth Ferguson was going through a shower. So Mother went up and told her there wasn't going to be any wedding, so it didn't need to be a shower. So that's where it started. And then, anyhow, as I kind of took on a low profile and tried to stay away and avoid having a out and out war with her. And so anyway, she all tried to stop the wedding several different ways. Another friend of mine, the McLaughlins, who lived up the road and didn't know my mother very well, they gave us the shower. So that went fine. Hey there, Nick. How you doing, big boy?
There's a young grandson here. I'm interviewing Grandpa. I'm interviewing
So how
Grandpa.
you doing, Nicholas? What
Huh?
is it?
Are you hungry for breakfast? We'll
Yeah,
stop
it
this
is.
for a minute.
Yeah. Can you see us?
Can you say something?
See, there's me and there's you. See, I'm right over your shoulder.
Yeah, go back and stand next to Grandpa. Tell Grandpa a story.
Yeah, you want to tell me a story about pooping?
You're poopy.
Do you
Can
like
you-
to poop?
Can you tell Grandpa a story about pooping?
Do you enjoy pooping? Huh?
You don't like to poop?
You don't like to poop? Well, my goodness.
There you have. When and where did you get married?
We got married at Cockrell Hill Methodist Church on August 26, 1953.
And what was the service like?
It was just a private service with just a few in attendance. Myra's mother, her sister, the best man, and I can't remember. Myra, who was present at our wedding besides you and Robley and Lita and Ronell and
Aunt Flo brought
Aunt
money,
Flo.
and Chris, Chris Parton from work,
Yeah.
and I think Betty Page.
Oh, and Betty Page, yeah.
Not the Betty Page. Mom, you're running away. Not the Betty Page. The notorious Betty Page?
No, it's Bill Page's wife. They used to work together.
What did you do after the wedding? I know it was
I
hot.
went down to the Sky Club.
BJ were there.
Oh, give BJ the so that's a pretty good group anyway. So it was hot, and the preacher cut his finger in the fan, and so it was.
So he was in pain.
Yeah, so he had a bandage on the finger, and
So
Said
Guy wasn't
words.
there.
no, he wasn't there.
So you went to the Starlight Club after the ceremony?
Sky Club. I believe
Sky
it's
Club.
called. Then, so anyway, then
Who went with you? Or was